Bone, joint, and muscle injuries, they can happen without warning. That's why UPMC Orthopedic Care provides convenient walk-in access at our injury clinics throughout the region. No appointments are needed, just walk in for expert evaluation and exceptional care by our team of orthopedic specialists. Clinics are located in Carlisle, Lidditz, Harrisburg, and Enola. For directions and hours or to learn more, visit upmc.com/injuryclinic.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Pennsylvania High School Football Report podcast. I'm Brian Linder. I'm here with Dan Sostek. Eric Epler is covering baseball or doing something else. We didn't invite Ramir Vaughn on. Evan Wheaton, I don't know what happened to him. MIA, I don't know where Evan is. Tom DiMartini, he's out doing, I don't know, lacrosse or something. Just me and you, Dan.
Yeah.
Pitt had their pro day today. What about Pitt's pro day?
If we're talking District 3 football, someone had a really good day was Brandon George. Former Berks Catholic star, played, I feel like, a billion years at Pitt. But he had both a long jump or whatever or a vertical leap and bench press numbers that would have been number one of any linebacker at the combine. So I've always liked watching Brandon play. He's a real downhill physical. I didn't get to see him play in high school. I heard he was a pretty good running back too, but he's been a fun guy to watch.
Ed used to message me all the time to tell me he was the best linebacker in the state. So good to see him coming through and doing well. I think Donovan McMillan ran pretty well. And he got like 21 reps on the bench. I mean, he's a kid that get a shot. I think we mentioned before, kid, you and I got to talk about this either tonight or tomorrow or something and try to figure something out for Dante Kent from Harrisburg, Central Michigan kid. He had his pro day, did pretty well. A couple weeks ago, he's coming through town here soon and wants to come in the studio. And we probably need to log down something there. Get him in there, get a podcast out of him. But it's that time of the year, Dan. We're quickly building towards the NFL draft. I'm not too big of a John Gruden fan anymore, but I saw Kyle McCord did the Gruden QB thing, and Gruden gave him some props. That's the former St. Joe's Prep quarterback, Kyle McCord, who, had a really interesting career. Was never a bad player. He had one bad game against your Pitt Panthers, really a horrendous game, but he had some huge passing numbers, and he's been, I think, gaining a little bit of steam going into the draft. Some people seem to like him pretty well. Maybe getting a little bit more love than Will Howard.
Yeah, I mean, we usually have more PA kids, I feel like, in the draft than we do this year, but I think that there's a chance that there are going to be some late risers in the process. I don't think Penn State's had their pro day. They'll probably have like 5 kids who run a 4.1 40 because that's what happens every Penn State pro day.
I just saw Adam Schefter said the Cleveland Browns are looking at Abdul Carter at number 2. They want him.
That's not great for my New England Patriots. So, firstly, I wanted Abdul Carter to fall to them, but beyond that, it just screws it. I personally think the 2 best players in the draft are Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, and I think Cam Ward's pretty good, but I kind of think you're overthinking it if you don't pick one of those 2 guys first overall.
Maybe, but you got to have a quarterback. You know that all too well because you don't really have one. Well, you'll figure that out this year.
You're an Indianapolis Colts fan, so
yeah. Well, Anthony Richardson, he's come. This is his year. AR's time.
You sound like me with Mac Jones.
He's coming through, dude. What else we got? Look, we got some big news. A lot of kids I know. I think Tyrell Ford from CD East is at St. Francis, if I'm not mistaken. St. Francis, just fresh out of making the NCAA tournament in basketball, is dropping down to D3. That's not good news for some kids who were thinking they were getting scholarships and playing there and stuff, I would imagine. And I think you got one of them you were talking to, a really good local player who was committed to head there. Tell us about that. And, man, I don't know about this. It doesn't seem to be well received, the news that St. Francis is dropping.
The timing is so bizarre. I get there are probably some like administrative reasonings for why the news came out now, probably like some deadlines, things like that. But first off, you're in the NCAA tournament. You played in a super thrilling play-in game where you guys just barely lose, but was a really good moment for your university. It's post-signing day. Then you announced you're going from D1 to D3, which one of the biggest aspects that I think is kind of under discussed is the difference in scholarships. I think D3 might not, I don't know if they don't give scholarships or there's limits. I forget the exact rules, but it's a lot different. I know, it. When you see on Twitter, so many of the kids we cover, a lot of the times their first Division I offer is like from St. Francis, and that's a big deal for them. And a lot of kids commit to the program because it's a D1 school with a D1 schedule. It gives you a better chance of, advancing further along. I just don't think that this was handled in a way that it should have been handled, because I just don't think that you can let kids have a big signing day in the winter, pledge themselves to St. Francis, and then be like, oh, by the way, we're not Division I anymore. It doesn't sit right with me.
No, and it's just another example why I tend to side with the kids more often than not when it comes to transfers and all this other stuff. The adults created the system. They never seem to handle it well.
I saw some arguments on Twitter like, oh, well, you should pick a school for the fit, not for the level. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No, you should. If you can get to the highest level of college athletics and you think you make it there, that does supersede fit. Like I'm not playing at a D3 school if I have a chance to play at a D1 school. And
the same people who tweet that they, kids don't want to compete because they transfer out because they're a backup. Yeah, well, the reason kids commit to higher level schools and want to go to higher level schools is to compete.
It's to compete, and it's to put them in better positions for their future. I love the PSAC schools. I love the D3 schools, but it is harder to get to the next level, especially in a sport like football or a sport like basketball if you're not playing Division I. And so to kind of go from that schedule where you're getting a chance to go up against, because that's the real thing, right, is going up against the other team. Because even if you're not playing on a great team, you could have a scout there that's there to see someone on another team, and then they see you, they write their name down, and then you're a guy that they're keeping their eye on for the rest of the time. It's like there's just so many reasons for why I totally side with any kid who's like, hey, there might have been a coach I like more, but I really think I can make it in Division I. And to pull the rug out from under them, and I get it, there's going to be 1 year, another year. So with the portal, maybe kids could stay there and then transfer the next year. But I don't know. I've heard other reports too that this isn't going to be the last school that does this, which if not, that might be kind of an issue, a larger scale issue. Because I imagine they're obviously St. Francis isn't just doing this just to do it, right? There's got to be reasons and rationales for it. But to me, the issue is just the timing and how they handled it.
Well, look, we got some more big news in the area. CD East hired their new coach, maybe the youngest in the state, Tyshaun Pollard, former star athlete there. He ran track. He was a really fast guy, played running back, was a star running back for them. Went off to college, played wide receiver, running back, in the PSAC. I think he finished up there at Bloomsburg. And we got Tyshaun, like I said, maybe the youngest coach at 26 years old in the state, as our guest this week. So why don't we get into that, Dan?
Bone, joint, and muscle injuries, they can happen without warning. That's why UPMC Orthopedic Care provides convenient walk-in access at our injury clinics throughout the region. No appointments are needed, just walk in for expert evaluation and exceptional care by our team of orthopedic specialists. Clinics are located in Carlisle, Lidditz, Harrisburg, and Enola. For directions and hours or to learn more, visit upmc.com/injuryclinic.
All right, Dan, we got our guest here this week, new CD East coach, Tyshaun Pollard. Tyshaun is funny. I've been here about 8 years. I think his senior year, maybe his junior year was when I first got here to Harrisburg, and he was a heck of a player over at CD East. And now I think he might be the youngest coach in the state now at 26 years old. Tyshaun, first of all, man, the news broke yesterday. Eric Epler had a story on Penn Live about it. I guess, how does it feel, man, to be the head coach at CD East High School?
Man, it feels great. Like I was telling Eric, it's like a full circle moment. I feel like every experience that I've had since I left East High was preparing me for this moment. And now God has opened up the door and I'm just ready to go, man.
What was this process like for you? Obviously, you had 2 years of assistant coaching experience there under Lance Deane at CD East, right? But no prior head coaching experience. So, like, how did the process go for you? How did you end up being the pick here? And how did you land this job?
Well, my experience under Coach Deane showed me a lot about my love and passion for coaching and it just being a calling for me. And when I got the news that he was going to be taking another opportunity, I wanted to put myself in consideration for the job. And so I just started to prepare like the job was already mine. I stayed the course throughout the entire process. And as things worked its way out, the board felt comfortable with making the decision. And thank God they chose me.
And obviously, you mentioned Lance. Lance was also kind of in your shoes, right? One of the youngest coaches in the state, too. Seeing, Lance have success and kind of start up his coaching career at that age, did that kind of give you confidence to pursue this opportunity as well?
Yeah, he always spoke that into me. So the relationship that I had with him was huge. Him pushing me to, take that leap of faith and really put myself out there and enter my name, and having multiple conversations with him and also being able to be an assistant under him makes me feel prepared. So it's exciting for sure.
You've had the job for a couple of days now, but I'm sure you've been thinking about it for a while. Like, do you have an idea yet of how you're going to go about sort of, molding? Because it feels like every coach sort of has the way they're going to run their program, the personality they're going to put out. Do you feel like you have that sort of idea of how you're going to want to run the CD's program, just at least on a sort of macro big level?
Yeah, I do. This whole process, I've been thinking about it. What is it about me that would make me a good candidate, and why would I be called for the job? And God has given me this opportunity, so obviously He thinks that I have something to give to the school. I love the community, I love the kids, and understanding the type of things that we go through, not only as a team, a football team, but understanding what these young men go through in their lives. It just gives me a broader understanding of how powerful the platform is as their head coach, as a mentor. And so I want to be able to put the right guys around me on the staff, make sure we're building connections with the community, the administration, and everybody that cares about the program, so that ultimately the entire goal of everybody is to, better the lives of these young men so that when they leave the program, they're better off. And so having those things in the forefront of my mind has been the main mission of everything that I've put together as far as the plan. And then now it's just all about building that brand up and continuing to do the things that we've done the last couple of years.
Having gone to school at CD East, been a star player there, and you talked about some of the things that the kids there go through, and you kind of know what they've been through and stuff like that. I've been privy to some of those stories. Some of them we were able to tell, some of them we weren't. What are some of the challenges right now, and in front of these kids and things of that nature? These kids at CD East, what can you do as a coach to kind of bring them through that and get them out there on the field?
These kids face the same challenges that a lot of kids now face with different things like social media. And well, one thing that I always think about, and I heard this from Steve Sarkisian, the three parts of their lives is like school, you got football, and then you got your personal life. And so there's so many factors that go into their daily lives before they even come to practice or workouts or anything like that. And so that's why building relationships with them and being able to understand what they come from is huge, so that you can meet them halfway and, being able to build them up from where they are. And as I continue to have experiences as a head coach, I'll understand more and more. And that's why I want to, put myself in positions to learn more about the dynamics of how our education system is inside the school, which I've already started. And, just understanding socioeconomic factors and things like that, that'll give me a better understanding of the people that I'm working with. Because at the end of the day, these young men are people before anything, before they're football players. And so it's just like being able to adapt, I would say would be the biggest thing for me as I start my journey as a head coach.
I was saying, you got to different parts of the state. I do think that there are people who don't understand sometimes, like you mentioned, like socioeconomic issues and stuff like that. Not everywhere has those same kind of hurdles to go through. And I know CD East has faced those in the past, and that is a big part of it. And it's not something you always want to harp on. It is a key. I mean, one of their best players, Vincent Carroll Jackson, grew up homeless for the most part, and ended up going to Nebraska, and I believe it's at Connecticut, right? So that's not something you see at every school, heck, even in the Mid-Penn. So there are some challenges there that I think are unique to the position. So I'm glad you brought that up. But go ahead, Dan, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was just going to, kind of talk more broadly about kind of being a 26-year-old football coach, because, a player as good as yourself, you're obviously, all Mid-Penn Commonwealth, a good enough player to play college level at Bloomsburg. I feel like when you're at that point, you're not necessarily thinking about coaching, right? When you're in high school, and you're not thinking you're going to be a head coach at 26, right? You're probably thinking, how am I going to get my opportunity to the league? When did it start kind of crossing your mind that you start thinking, maybe I can get on this coaching trajectory and, try to kickstart my career this way? Because I know that's probably, I only played 1 year in middle school. I was not very good. But for someone as good as you were to kind of accept switching from being on the field to coaching just in your mind.
Oh, I've lived an experience that's really similar to a lot of theirs. You know what I'm saying? So as a student athlete, you spend your entire life really focusing on you and your dreams and your aspirations and what you want to get out of life. And then, as I got closer to that window really closing on my playing days, I really had to do some soul searching and really figure out what am I going to do next? Like, what am I passionate about? What do I really want to do to, help the world be a better place? And, I'm still finding my way, but coaching and being a mentor was huge for me. And so once I graduated and I started having the opportunity to do that, my love for it just continued to grow. And I'll continue to say that it's truly a calling because it was a lot of prayer that went into it. And, I tried to get away from it as much as I could. I'm like, man, I have an MBA, I've done this, and, maybe I'm not supposed to be a coach and all these different things you tell yourself. But when something is for you, it's for you. And it really can't be stopped as long as you take those steps and take that leap of faith to step into it. And, I'm still growing as an individual, trying to develop and better my bad habits, just like I'm trying to teach for these young men. And so we'll be on this journey together.
I think when you're that young, Dan, there's a strength in that too, especially when you're coming into a community you grew up in, and that you still, I think you can age out of it a little bit. You still have a very strong connection, like everybody there probably. And how much does that play into getting these guys out, recruiting the hallways a little bit, and stuff like that? Like I would imagine you're probably still pretty plugged in.
Yeah, so I love East. You can ask anybody. I love East. And so I've tried to stay as connected as I could ever since I left. And the relationships that I was able to build with people in the building, people throughout the district, and, people that just supported the program while I was there are relationships that last a lifetime. And so as I come back around and started to coach and everything, obviously the student athletes are different. Some of them are my friends, little brothers and sisters and cousins and things like that. And so there's still a connection there, but it's also a different type of new factor because they might have heard of me because of, my experience there. But some of the relationships had to be built from ground zero. And so now I try to use my experience as a student athlete there and just my experiences overall to connect with the student athletes. And going there and being a part of that is a huge part because I feel like that helps you draw nearer to them because you are a part of the Eastside community and it's a family to me. So it helps tremendously with trying to get people to come out and getting that support.
From a football perspective, last year, CDs, it's kind of a tale of two seasons, right? You start the year really hot, battling through a lot of injuries. I mean, to lose Jared Porter, I was at that game on the third play of the game for nearly the whole season. It was tough. But what do you kind of view this roster as? Because obviously there's some key pieces like, Jared and Damaj graduating. But as someone who's pretty familiar with the rosters, how do you kind of view what the job is going to be in 2025?
Well, we got a lot of kids coming back that are able to go, whether that be from a lot of reps the last couple of years or not. We have to be able to develop them. And so a huge part of it is getting the staff on board as quickly and efficient as possible and developing the kids that we do have. I like the saying, it goes, the players, formations, plays. And so we'll focus on our players and their strengths first, and then we'll get into the football specific schematics and really work around that. And every time we get on the field, we'll give ourselves the best chance if we really dial into it that way.
I think that was going to kind of dial into something I wanted to ask Dan. I mean, you've been there, Tyshaun, since I've been here, 8 years, 9 years now. Being real, City East has had some good years, but you notice you're playing in the Mid-Penn Commonwealth, maybe the toughest division in the state. McDevitt's now in there, won the 5A title last year. They're going to be good again. Harrisburg's good every year. Central Dauphin's been down a little bit, but they've been to a state championship. So I've been here. State College is usually really good. And City East has kind of been sort of on the outside of that for a while now, like on the periphery, had some good teams, but not really in that mix. Can you guys get in that mix? What do you guys have to do to get in that mix? And what kind of challenge is it to get in that mix? You're a young coach coming into, I think, maybe the toughest conference in the state.
I think the first thing is it's a mentality. And so you have to approach it with the belief, put in the work to back up that belief. I feel like in years past, us as a community, we haven't always had that championship culture and that championship mindset. And a lot of the times we were defeated before we even stepped onto the field because we knew the type of star power or firepower that other teams had when they came on the field against us. And so it's going to be a day-to-day process, really just trying to hone in on building habits that consistently just develop day by day. And then as we work through the season, teams are going to have to worry about us. I know that last 3 is going to be tough again, but like I said, we focus on developing things outside of football within our young men, and then being able to translate that to football, we'll be fine. And we'll get hot when we're supposed to, and we'll make plays when we're supposed to, more than we may have in the past, and we'll prove ourselves right, is what I'll say.
Who have been some of your, obviously Lance is going to be one of them, but who have been some of the coaches throughout your football career, not just, as a coach, but even as a player, you've kind of looked to and kind of look at and say, hey, that's a way I would want to conduct myself as a coach. And kind of, it could be someone that you played for, it could be someone you've watched from afar. Just who are some of your role models in that regard?
There's so many. I've had the pleasure of having so many great coaches throughout my life. And that's from Little League all the way up until college ball. Gary Jones and Coach App and all of these guys from the Harrisburg Broncos. Shout out to the Harrisburg Broncos. And yeah, Coach Key, Coach Lawrence from Smurfs. Everybody in the Harrisburg Broncos organization that was able to touch my life. And then coming up to high school and having the staff under Coach AB, like Coach Sweeney, Coach Jim Owens, Coach Minnick, all of those guys. I wish I could shout out everybody. But as of now, I've been having a lot of conversations with Lance, Coach Earl Mosley, another guy that coached me at CD East. I've had a lot of conversation with him, and I'll give a shout out to my college coaches as well. Coach Chet Hennicle, great mentor for me, and Frank Sheptock. And so there's so many coaches that I've had in my life that I will pull pieces from them and ultimately put my own personality and style of coaching into it. That's going to be really beneficial for me, having those experiences with coaches like those.
Tyshaun could do it all, damn, man. He was fast. He ran track. He was a running back here. You played a little bit of running back in college, right? Moved to receiver, right?
Yeah.
Did you play with Chase at all? I'm bad with the years. Did you play Chase Edmonds at all?
Chase was a senior when I was a freshman.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Wow.
I played with him that 2013, 2014 football season.
And just having guys like that in the program, that had to have been such a big lift for the CD's football program to see a guy like that go through the CD's program, never, transfer anything, kind of work his way up. And, now obviously we've seen the success he's had. And now there's a few more kids coming from this area that are from the program that are going to be Division I level guys. How important is that for a program to, see the success of others? And even yourself, coming up from the program, become a head coach again. Do you feel like that's an important thing of building a program?
It's huge. It's huge, especially because these kids have their eyes on people at all times. And so they see those positive examples of people making it here and doing this and doing the things that they want to do with their own lives. It could be an inspiration for them. Try not to make it a bad thing with them trying to be exactly like someone else, but it does inspire you to think like, yeah, there's other things outside of just going to Central Dauphin East or being from Harrisburg. I can actually succeed and do these things because I've seen people in front of me as examples of that testimony.
I think, Dan, that's one of the things where while we said that CD East has kind of been on the outside a little bit looking in with the Harrisburgs and stuff like that, they've done a really nice job the last couple of years of sending kids to school, I think. And that's been a good positive for that program. I think one year, Lance's first or second year, they sent like 11 kids to school. That is big. And that's a good mark. And it just tells you there's talent there. And we know that. So it'll be fun to see Tyshaun, man. I'm excited. I was excited to see you get the job. It's, a name I knew. And I actually texted the guy. I said, dang, he's just like 2 years out of college or something, And I don't know if you know, but we did do like a weekly how they did post. So your name was always in there. So I was able to keep up with how you did in college and stuff.
I do have to ask you one thing, though, because you always get head coach hires that are young enough that, their bios from their college days are still up on the website, and got some interesting info in the personal profile. And the one that I saw that stuck out was your go-to karaoke song is Anything by Beyonce. So I'm going to make you specify, because I've seen Beyonce live once too. So what's your go-to Beyonce song?
Right now it's Heated.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Heated, yeah. I love that song.
And I like your Celebrity Doppelganger, Be No More Apps. That's a pretty good one. Yeah, I can see it.
Some people might hate on me, but man.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Big Beyonce fans. I didn't see that one coming for you guys.
It was Beyonce, man. It's funny because sometimes I do have R&B on before the game. My face might look like it's hip hop or something going on in the headphones, but most of the time it is R&B.
I've heard a lot of players, they need that chill, kind of the chill music, right, to get in the zone.
Yeah.
So you don't want it to be too heated to get a personal foul call in the first play of the game.
Yeah, you don't want to crash before the game. You get yourself all worked up.
Well, Tyshaun, man, we appreciate you coming on with us. Listen, I think it's going to be fun to see. They couldn't hire someone who knew the program better than you, the community better than you. Those are key factors in trying to keep some of those kids at CD East, and then also getting them out the hallways. And I think Lance was doing a good job of that too. And I felt like you guys were right on the cusp of breaking through. And I think you're a good guy that has a good chance of continuing that. So, and possibly breaking them through. It's going to be tough, though, man. This is a tough conference, man. This is a tough conference. You know that, though.
I feel you don't want anything different, right? Though
Yeah, we got a lot of work ahead of us for sure, but that's never been a problem. You got to put the work in to get where you want, and so we're going to take it day by day, and we'll be good with whatever happens after the work is done. So I appreciate you guys having me.
They've always had the potential, Dan. Even I think from Tyshaun's time, like I said, he was a track runner. They had like the 4x100 guys were out there on the team one year. They've always had speed and good athletes. So I've always felt like it's a school waiting to break out, man, Tyshaun. So, good luck, man. We look forward to seeing what you do there. All right, Dan, that was our guest, Tyshaun Pollard, the new coach at CD East. Dan, what did we learn today? What did we learn from Tyshaun and that interview?
I mean, you could just tell just from talking to Tyshaun that this means a lot to him, that I imagine it means as much or more than, pretty much anyone CDs could hire. I think it's, was he a guy that when we were talking about, hey, that CD's job is open, I wonder who's going to take it, was anyone mentioning Tyshaun Pollard's name? No, because I don't think we knew he was a guy that was looking to get it and kind of make that meteoric rise. But I think he's very clearly a guy that understands the community, understands kind of the challenges of the job. But I mean, you got it even from asking him about that division. I don't think he's going to be afraid of competing. And I think that the kids are going to take to that kind of mindset.
Originally, I was thinking that's a little bit of an outside the box hire. He doesn't have previous head coaching experience. But then, the more I thought about it again, like I said, Tyshaun was a star there. His roots all the way back. He told us till, he was a freshman on the team when Chase Edmonds was a senior. Then he went from being a really good player for them to going off, and I think he was in the PSAC maybe 6 years. He's 2 years out of college. Point being, he's been in a college program for 5 or 6 years, I believe, and then came through and was right into, coaching under Lance Deane, who I think the world of Lance. He's a good young coach too. Now he's the athletic director at Susquehanna Township. So he has some good connections. He's been in programs. Obviously, I think when a young coach, one of the hurdles is has he had enough time to kind of really put together all the ins and outs of what he wants his program to be? Like a veteran coach, they know what they want to run on everything and what they got to put in. And Tyshaun might not have that yet. I don't know. He might. But also what he does have is, like I said, he still has a really strong connection to the community. He's a young guy who can connect with those athletes. And look, when you're in the Mid-Penn Commonwealth, we know, Dan, that if you want to get to the top, you got to beat Harrisburg. You got to beat State College. Cumberland Valley's no pushover. Central Dauphin's been down, but like I said, they've been to a state championship the last decade, and now Bishop McDevitt's in there. So it's a really strong conference.
And even listing all those out, you don't even mention programs like Cedar Cliff, but even Altoona can give you every now and then can be kind of a really tough team. Though, we say it every year, but the Mid-Penn Commonwealth is, I can't imagine there are many more. Like you probably can find a couple in the Whippeal maybe, and a couple like the Philly has some tough divisions, but from top to bottom, there really aren't any. But like we've talked about before, but Chambersburg, they're a program that has won a state title in boys track and field. So that tells you the type of athletes they have there. And like kind of the bottom rung, there's no easy games. Even the easy games aren't easy.
So if he can build off of what Lance Deane had going there, use his ties to maybe get a few more kids out of the hallways, which Lance, I think, was already doing a really good job of. So not knocking that. We know they've had the athletes. We know they've had state champion type 4x100 teams in the past and stuff like that. Guys like Tyshaun, these fast, speedy guys. So if he can get that going, get them out there, who knows? I think it was probably a good pick. And I think he's a good guy. I think he's a good young man, and this is homeschool. So it'll be fun to see what Tyshaun can do there. I'm glad he got the opportunity. Good dude, great athlete in his time. And look, he's got his work cut out for him, but this will be fun to watch.
Yep.
Anyway, Dan, we got a podcast. Tell them how to find you on social media.
_Sostek.
And I'm at Sports by B Linder on Twitter. And look, we got a bunch of stuff on PennLive. Dan's going out to see Hershey play on Friday, I think, in the state championship game for basketball. Nobody saw that coming. Got a couple good football players. Real quick, Dan, got a couple good football players. Cam Sweeney and those guys right on Hershey.
I forget if any of the other guys are. I think Cam's kind of the main football guy there, but he's been so fun to watch this playoff. The last game up in the beautiful area of Clearfield goes up against Charters Valley as a 2,000-point scorer at point guards, averaging 25 points a game. Kid has 1 point at halftime. He's been on one, so it's been fun to watch. Obviously, have a tough test in Newman Goretti.
Underdogs.
Yeah, it's not the same Newman Goretti team that they've had in years past, but it's still a Newman Goretti team. So their starting point guard's brother just started at Baylor in NCAA tournament. So they have a little more size on them, but should be a fun game. And I'll tell you what, I think we've confirmed it's the home game for any team, and like pure home game in any basketball state championship. It's going to be crazy there. I've heard guys like Dave Lebo will be there, and a lot of Paul Blackburn's Carlisle teammates will be there, so it should be a fun one.
So check us out on PennLive.com. We'll have a lot of stuff from that, and then obviously a lot more other stuff. We still have football coming up on the website. Obviously, we do this podcast year-round. Until next week, we'll see you guys out on the road.
Bone, joint, and muscle injuries, they can happen without warning. That's why UPMC Orthopedic Care provides convenient walk-in access at our injury clinics throughout the region. No appointments are needed, just walk in for expert evaluation and exceptional care by our team of orthopedic specialists. Clinics are located in Carlisle, Lidditz, Harrisburg, and Enola. For directions and hours or to learn more, visit upmc.com/injuryclinic.